Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name's CritterXD. In today's video, I will have a very special guest on one last time to finish our Vox Machina Season 2 episode ranking. We're down to the wire here. We've got the best episodes from our perspectives left to rank. I'm gonna get right into it, but before I do, I want to remind you to please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications when I post new content and go live, and interact with the video in any way. I'd love to see your comments. All that being said, let's get into it. Welcome back! We are once again going to be ranking the Vox Machina Season 2 episodes. This time we're going from 6th best to most best to number 1. A reminder, if you didn't see the other videos, and if you haven't seen them yet, then go back and watch. But this is my cousin Ben joining me today. He watched the entire season and Season 1 at my, I don't want to say request, recommendation. And you're pretty pleased with that choice?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely enjoyed the show. It's different from any other show that I have watched.
So true.
And it does a good job of capturing kind of the D&D feel. So I certainly enjoyed it and happy to be here.
Okay, amazing. So before we get started, just to let everybody get to know a little bit about you, I will ask, what is your favorite fantasy property?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think probably my favorite would be The Wheel of Time. And I know for a lot of people watching it, that's that's probably a lot of their
probably true,
too.
Yeah.
But, I think with 14 books, Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson just have so much time to just fully flesh out this world and all the history of it and everything that's going on. And I just think it's top to bottom the most well done fantasy series that I've ever read. It's really hard to not say something like The Lord of the Rings, because when I was in 3rd grade and I read The Lord of the Rings, and it started it all for me, right? All my love from fantasy was created from The Lord of the Rings. So it's really hard to not say that, but I just think The Wheel of Time is everything that I want and now expect in a fantasy series, and I have yet to find something else that stands up to it.
Could not agree more. Everything you said is exactly my experience. I love The Wheel of Time so much. Even though I started with The Hobbit and then The Lord of the Rings, and that really kicked off my love for fantasy. Yep. With The Lord of the Rings, I was like, whoa. And then with The Wheel of Time, I was like, whoa. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. And so for me, it's definitely The Wheel of Time, although always Lord of the Rings is going to have a majorly special place in my heart.
Yep, it's number 1.
Okay, well, if you haven't read The Wheel of Time yet, you know what to do.
Go do it.
Go do it. We're not talking about The Wheel of Time anymore. We're talking about the top 6 episodes in Season 2 of Vox Machina. Okay, so let's get started with the 6th best episode in Vox Machina Season 2 in 3, 2, 1. 10.
8.
Okay.
So 10. We haven't heard 10 yet. Why 10?
This is where things got really rough for me. These final 6, half the entire season was impossible for me to rank. Episode 10 is the intense uncle fight plus after party. That's how I have it described in my notes.
Plus after party.
Well, I mean, it's important to note the after party because that's whenever Scanlan finds a friend, right?
Seduces his
daughter.
So he thinks.
Accidentally. And yeah, so the fight was insane. It was an amazing fight. I loved it. Grog had this. He finally came to the realization that his strength came from his friends. His friends rolled in. The fighting sequence was incredible. Everybody got their moment to shine. It was a lovely, awesome, cool episode. But for me, it was just one big fight, right? And so that was kind of what brought it back into the middle area of the season rather than being higher up. It was an awesome fight, but it wasn't as well-rounded as some of the other episodes that are higher up for me, even though we did have the after party and we didn't get the payoff of the daughter, possibly dragon seduction arc, but it was set up and it was very, very exciting to see what was going to happen. And so, yeah, that's why I have it there. It was awesome. It was so cool. This one literally could have been number 3 for me, and it would have made just as much sense. So,
Yeah.
anyways, you go ahead.
Yeah, these all get they start to get a lot harder to rank, I think, and obviously as you get a little bit higher. So I have 8 for this one, and this is the episode where they're in the Fae realm and they meet the Archfey, and Vex gets kind of like charmed by him, and I just really liked that as a way to basically get it or earn a vestige, right? I kind of had this thought that maybe every vestige was just going to be okay, we just got to go in and beat up a bunch of bad guys, and that's how we get it. But turns out that that's only like one way that they get one of the 4 vestiges. So this was I liked the way that this played out, where Vex gets kind of again charmed by the Archfey, and then comes back to her senses when he tries to seduce her. Ultimately, the way that whole scene played out, while the other 3 characters are all fighting off the treants that the Archfey's creating, and again, Keyleth gets to go. She gets to go full supernova again. She becomes a big fire elemental. So all around a good episode, and a pretty significant or big resolution with Vex ending up with the bow at the end. So solid episode, solidly in my top half.
Okay.
Not quite good enough to get above some of the other ones. So.
Okay. Well, I if you've watched the other episode already, you know that one is still to come for me. So We'll see how that goes. All right. So the top 5, the 5th best episode in Vox Machina season 2 in 3, 2, 1, 4, 2.
11.
Oh, 11. Dang it. Why would you do this for 2? Okay, so you've already done 4.
I had 4. It's 7.
7,
so
okay.
Just 2 back.
Just a few back. All right, so this one was a lovely episode for Vax in particular. I love to see him kind of like throw himself on the sword for Vex. He's always trying to protect her. The same is true in the Kith and Kin book, which is like their backstory.
Yeah.
Always trying to protect her, even if she doesn't want to get protected. And in this case, she obviously didn't have a say, and he ended up with a vestige, and he was now the champion of the Matron of Ravens, or at least he was one step on that path. And so it was an awesome Vax episode, without even mentioning the super cool fight that he had with the squid demon eyeball thing. When he finally got to flex some magic-y muscles and do some damage to a big monster. I love the armor itself and how cool it looks and how it was kind of like glinting or whatever in that episode. Yeah. That visually was really stunning. Yeah, that's about it. It was just a really solid, very cool episode. And the fact that I knew that Vex was going to come back made the way she came back that much cooler, because it wasn't like a death saving throw from D&D. It wasn't like somebody had a potion. It wasn't something like typical. It was something unique, and that was really cool, because I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't know how.
4 is definitely a solid episode. I know you like your Vax and your Vex, so not surprising.
I do.
That a little higher than me. So I have 11 here. 11 is fight part 1 of the fight with the final fight with Umbrasyl. The episode kind of starts with Vax going to the mistress or the matron of Ravens, kind of getting himself sorted out there, right? He's been battling these demons internally, and then you get to see Percy's second contribution to the whole season, which is he sets up the dragon trap, which lasts for all of 5 seconds before he breaks out.
Longer.
I really liked I liked the fight with Umbrasyl in this episode. This is the one where you actually kind of feel like, hey, the team's winning, because they are, right? They win against Umbrasyl in this episode, but Umbrasyl gets away. So I think, to me, if they had won the fight in this episode, this would have been my favorite episode. But because it kind of gets extended out, they kind of stretch it outwards. No, they don't quite win. They're winning, and then the dragon just flies away, and they're all just like, okay, well, let's chase after him. Again, solid episode. The fight scene was a lot of it was a lot of fun, and it was the way that they showcased each of the each of the different members of the team, and they all contribute to something, right? You got the epic Scanlan's hand move. You've got, Grog like slams the axe in the dragon as it's flying away. Percy tries to trap it. They're all using their skills and their abilities in the way that only they uniquely can to try to fight Umbrasyl, and it's working, and they're winning. And then Umbrasyl just flees. So it's a great episode. It's a lot of fun, but again, there's still some better episodes to come, so it falls at number 5 for me.
That one hurts a little bit more than the others, not gonna lie. Ooh, okay, so let's do the 4th best episode in Vox Machina Season 2 in 3, 2, 1, episode 4. Or sorry, 8. 2 4s, 8. What am I doing?
So 10, you talked about 10 just a little bit ago, so I'll jump in on 10. I really enjoyed watching Grog's fight with his uncle. I'm a sucker for kind of an underdog story, right? Though, like, the guy gets in there and he's not as strong, or he's not as quick, or he's not as good, but he still wins. And the way that the whole group gets back together in this episode, I like that. Episode 10 also has my favorite still art of the whole season, and you mentioned this in the other video, that there's a scene where Percy's kind of backlit and he's silhouetted, and it's just his glasses are white. Yes. I think that's the coolest still image of the whole season. I literally paused it and rewinded it. I was like, that was...
It's on one of my thumbnails, because I literally was like, that is sick.
Yeah, it's just awesome. So just that whole fight scene, and it's kind of a brutal, kind of a visceral fight scene. It's not like, people are shooting arrows, or it's not people dying off screen. It's bloody and messy and dirty, and people dying on screen in vicious and brutal ways. Yeah. And that was, I don't know, it kind of
awesome.
It was absolutely awesome, but it kind of brought home hey, this herd is actually some pretty bad people, right? They're doing some pretty bad stuff. They need to get taken out because they're showing all this stuff on screen of the way that they fight. So I really liked episode 10, and Grog finally getting his vestige, beating his uncle, getting his vestige, kind of getting his power and his strength back. He's my favorite character, so it was great to see him get a little bit of redemption in this episode too.
It was a great episode. That one was really rough for me to rank, because so much happened. It was just... Yeah. You gotta put him somewhere, though, right? Okay, so this is episode 4/8, aka episode 8, because I'm terrible at saying things out loud. So episode 8 is the Vex episode, and it's the Archfey, it's Singorn, it's their dad, it's the drama, it's Garmelli or whatever, Pippin combined. To me, because I love Vex especially, made for a really high-ranked episode. I thought the Archfey plot, it gave me ACOTAR vibes. If you're familiar with Sarah J. Maas, my husband likes to refer to it as fairy porn, but it's deeper than that, okay? I mean, it's... He's not
wrong. But yeah.
Anyways.
I know what you're saying.
So I read that in the last year, and having her be tempted by this, overpowerful guy who's clearly trying to manipulate her, and not only that, but clearly glamour her, as if a vampire would, or whatever. Her eyes glaze over, all that. And then when he finally tries to lay the killing blow, so to speak, and tells her that, her heart was going to belong to him, and she's like, my heart belongs to somebody else. I whooped, I just, because I'm a sucker for the love story, and they've been teasing her and Percy for so long, and finally it was like, thank you for acknowledging it. I've been wanting it for so long, and she finally did. And so, there was a lot of character-driven moments in this episode, not only in Singorn with their dad, but with the Archfey. And then on top of all of that, there was an awesome fight in the Fey realm, right? All these cool, sick neon visuals and all that stuff. And then in the end, she ends up with an elemental bow. So it was just great. It was a really satisfying episode for me. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. And I think this is the episode where at the very end, the satyr turns into do we know who that is? Because when I was watching, I was like, I don't think I know who that is.
The people in my comments who are critical role people are like, oh, watch and find out. So this guy's he's a guy. He shows up.
He's known.
He is known. Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently.
Just not by me.
Just not by us. But it wasn't intriguing.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a cliffhanger or something of that nature. Like, who is this? Right, a little question mark at the end of that episode.
Yeah, and that's not the only episode we get a little surprise, but we'll talk about that later. So let's move on to the top 3. We're getting down to the wire.
Yep, getting on the podium.
And we've still got possibility for crossover. So there's still at least one episode that we could pick the same.
We'll see.
All right, so the third best episode in Vox Machina Season 2. In 3, 2, 1, 6.
Oh, so close. I did 5.
Well, you go ahead with that one then.
Okay, so 5 is the episode. It's all about Keyleth. It's where you find out she's kind of from the wind tribe, and there's a fire tribe and a water tribe. It very, very much Avatar: The Last Airbender vibes. I really like Keyleth as a character. She's probably my second favorite behind Grog, or maybe third behind Pike. But I really like Keyleth. So getting to see her kind of grow in her character, grow in her powers. You get to see a little bit of her backstory, get to meet her dad, and you get to see some of like the world that she lived in. I thought was very interesting. There's also the big bad dragon. Like they tried to stick him in the fire realm, and that didn't work. So this is kind of like almost like a backlash from that. This episode doesn't necessarily fit, and you mentioned this, doesn't necessarily fit in with like the season as a whole. You could have just picked it up and put it in a number of different places. So that's kind of a negative to me of this episode, is that it doesn't really have a home anywhere. It's very much a pocket episode, I think you said. So yeah. It's got that aspect to it, but I just think the visuals of the episode are really cool.
Absolutely.
Like her going full nuclear and turning into a fire elementals really was very fun to see, and it was cool to see her growth again as a character. And this is also the episode, I think, where Vex gets on the flying broom for the first time, and Scanlan finally relents. He finally relents and tells her the passwords so she can fly around on the. He's like flying through the air on the hand, like yelling profanities at her. So it was a fun episode.
Yeah.
But you also get some new powers and things. So all around a great episode, and that's why it lands in my top 3.
Okay, so here's a fun fact you might not know, but you might know. People in my comments, if they weren't lying to me, by the way, so if you were, then I'm going to be really mad. But Kiki's mom was voiced by Katara, I think. The voice for Katara in Avatar.
Really?
Yeah, it's either Katara or Korra. Now I'm forgetting. But one of so an Avatar voice actor made the transition over here to Vox Machina to voice Kiki's mom on the Avatar episode. So that gives it some cool points, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
My third ranked episode was episode 6. And again, gosh, I think episodes 6 through 3 were all just like a very intense battle for me. But I went with episode 6 in the third spot because it had the most OMG holy shit moment for me, because I wasn't expecting Grog to stab Pike. Like, I know that they had kind of like telegraphed it, that something like that could happen, but I just kind of didn't believe it. To me, I was like, oh, he's always worried about that because there's a risk of that. But then when it actually happened, it happened in such a way that I was not ready for it. And I literally was like, you know what I mean? And you don't get that often in television, right? And so that was a heart attack moment for me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I love big emotional moments like that. And so that set that one put that one over the top of the other, like the 4, 5, and 6 for me. But then also it made me laugh, possibly the hardest of all the episodes, because of the twist when Scanlan decides to like hurt the feelings of the giant massive Sphinx, and that's how he, hurts him, or that's how he wins the trial. I was cackling. At first I was like, no way he's gonna hurt his feelings. I was completely skeptical. I'm like, I feel like I started the way that you still are, where you're like, really? This is how they're gonna do it? But then I was just dying because the song was awesome. The visuals were super cool, and it was just so much fun and such a unique way to do it. And so I was just dying. I thought it was really funny. And then also the fight with the dragon. I was convinced that Grog was like maybe just going to single-handedly take it down. And I know I should have known that he wasn't going to. But for a second, he was drawing blood. And so I had my hopes up. So that part of the fight was great. You already mentioned this, but the Sphinx battling the dragon was sick. And it was like how anyone thought that they were going to hurt this guy, right? With physically is laughable when you see him facing a dragon and just like, you know, trading blow for blow. Like, it was a really solid episode, I thought. It was really great in multiple ways. So it got my top 3.
Yeah, all good points. I can't argue with you on any of it. It definitely had a mid-season finale type feel to it. Like, as you're watching it, you're like, in my mind, I was thinking, like, they're going to kill the dragon. Like, they're going to kill this dragon in the middle of this season, and then they're going to kill another one. So, like, it kind of had that feel to it. Obviously, that didn't happen, but kind of did a 180 went the other direction. Like, we're just going to kill one of our own characters instead.
Split the party.
But it was awesome. So
yeah, it was. I liked it. So, all right, top 2 now. This is our last chance to have the same choice, and we might do it. Okay, so the second best episode in Vox Machina season 2. Drumroll, please. In 3, 2, 1. Episode 12. Yeah, there it is. There it is. So obviously, an excellent episode, objectively, you know, because 2 people agree that's the second best episode. Why don't you go ahead? Because I just talked.
I mean, it's the resolution of what they've been building towards this whole season, which is to fight and defeat Umbrasyl. You get to see the dragon's powers fully on display. You also get to see the team with all the vestiges, and they're not quite at full strength because some of them got hurt in the previous battle, but for all intents and purposes, they all have everything that they should need to beat the dragon. So you get to kind of see both teams throwing everything they have at each other. You know, I will say the way that they end up killing Umbrasyl is not my favorite. It kind of felt a little bit like a Deus Ex Machina of like Scanlan just kind of comes out of nowhere and kills it, you know, and it's like, you know, everybody's giving it all that they've got. They're just, you know, using every single thing at their disposal to fight, except for Scanlan, who's kind of just hiding in the corner. And then at the end, he's like, just gonna sneak up here and grab the sword, stab it in the face, kill it. Like, but just the visuals of the episode, the way that you get to see all of the team members working together, it was, I think, the episode that showed the most cohesion and coordination within the team, which I really liked.
Synergy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then afterwards, kind of the post-fight scene resolution where you learn that the one character is a dragon.
Finally, somebody's a dragon.
Yep, kind of trying to double cross the others. I thought that definitely sets the stage for episode 3. So you had a good fight scene. You also have a little plot development of, okay, what, you know, another big question mark of what's going to happen next. All around, just incredible episode.
Completely agreed. You forgot to mention the first thing on my list for this episode is Vax wings! Exclamation, exclamation. This is the episode where Vax gets his wings! And you know that I love Vax and Vax, but like, that was awesome. It was really freaking cool. Vax had this like, I don't know, what's the word? Self-actualization moment where he's kind of like praying to his god and whatever. He just gets wings and saves Scanlan, and it's awesome. And I am not describing it very well, but it was really cool to look at and experience.
We kind of think of it as when he goes inside the dragon, he's a caterpillar, and then when he cuts out, that's when he becomes a butterfly, and the dragon is kind of his cocoon, and that's kind of the Vax experience in that episode.
Okay. Yes, so, absolutely. That's perfectly accurate. So yeah, Vax gets his butterfly moment in this episode. So not only did he lead them into battle, but he also saved Scanlan's life, got wings. And then I kind of agree with you where I wish he would have gotten to kill the dragon because it feels like he earned it for all those reasons. And Scanlan, we've talked about this a little bit, is he drives me absolutely nuts in some fights where he just hides in the back, and it's like, dear God, Scanlan, if you were actually contributing, we might be closer to a win. Like, everyone's basically on their last leg and you're behind a rock, right? Like, what if you had been fighting this whole time? That would have been way more helpful, you know? And so it felt like his final blow was somewhat unearned, and I had him as in my top 3 characters, so, like, don't come for me. I thought he had a great season. But fighting-wise, he is not the end-all, be-all.
Yeah, and I also think one thing I will say about this episode that I really liked about it is the conclusion of the dragon fight had a very Dungeons and Dragons, I have to roll a 20 or else we're all going to die feel to it, right?
Yeah.
It had this feel like, okay, 6 of the party they're all about to die. Dragon is literally is like inhaling to kill them all. And then that final party member is like, all right, guys, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to grab my sword and my jump on the dragon, stab him in the eye, and kill him. And the Dungeon Master's like, okay, well, you have to roll a 20 for this to work. And then they roll a 20. Like, oh my gosh, it worked. You know, it definitely felt like that, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
I do really love whenever this show feels like it's a D&D campaign, you know, because then for those in the know, and even people like me and you who have relatively limited D&D experience, you can kind of feel it, you know, like at one point it was episode 11 where the dragon's like taking a step and he like looks down and sees the like trapdoor or whatever. I was like, oh, he just rolled a perception check, you know, and it's just kind of like that stuff where you can see it happening. And even if you don't know anything about D&D, it doesn't matter because the plot still works. But if you do know about it, then it's just got that extra little spice that I really, really like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Final episode. I
was going to say, you covered pretty much everything, so I just really wanted to emphasize that Vax got his wings. And the reason that that one didn't get number 1 for me probably is because the Scanlan thing was just kind of like, I was yelling at Scanlan through the screen to like help.
Do something.
So that was frustrating. All right, so
I agree.
Number 1 episode, very exciting times. Through the power of deduction, you know what we're going to pick, but maybe if you're not very good at that kind of thing, then you don't. So this is exciting. Yep. Okay, so for the countdown, the best episode in Vox Machina, Season 2, in 3, 2, 1. Episode 11.
Episode 1.
Okay.
Episode 1. Yeah, go ahead. You first.
Okay, sure. So let me just preface this by saying a lot happened in episode 11. Scanlan found out that he was a dad. Percy had a trap that trapped the dragon for longer than just a few seconds. It was a very effective trap. The one thing I would have changed is the fact that the half giants were holding it down, like, with themselves. Like, why would you not just, like, tie it to something? Anyways, that's my biggest complaint. Let's see. The Scanlan's butthole move was... that's another moment that I laughed out loud. Like, it was so funny. Vax had his Mistress of Ravens epiphany, and... generally speaking, that moment, whenever she's explaining to him, you know, the nature of death and everything, it really reminded me of the death episode in Sandman, which I know you haven't watched yet, right?
No, I've not.
It's just this, it gives an entirely different perspective on death than what you normally think of in, like, especially a fantasy property, because you're thinking of, you know, the Grim Reaper, it's dark, it's scary, and instead it's like this... it's a path that we all must take, right? And so it's this cool way to look at it, and you don't always expect something like that, something so deep, to come out of a random cartoon D&D show that's got, like, dick jokes half the time, right? And so that, to me, was really unexpected and really refreshing and really resonated with me. And then, like, amidst all of that, we've got, like, Kiki sneaking up on them while he's, like, trying to get away. And then him and Scanlan also have a really good heart-to-heart in that episode about, you know, the struggles that they're experiencing. So it just was an incredibly well-rounded episode with action, character development, general plot, like, satisfaction and emotion. And so it was just kind of like it just kind of hit all the marks, and it was my number 1.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a fantastic episode. I think both the last 2 episodes, I mean, neither of them disappoints. They're both incredibly good. My favorite episode is number 1. When I was watching the season, I ranked them as I watched them. So it was like, you know, number 1 after watching the first one, it was like, all right, 1's number 1, then, you know, 2, then 3, whatever. So I was ranking them as I went, and I just never watched, and like none of the episodes did I enjoy as much as I enjoyed episode 1. And I think you're spot on when you say episode 1 doesn't really show very much that the team can do. It doesn't showcase very many abilities. It doesn't really showcase the characters very much. But what it does a really good job of is highlighting what the threat is, right? It showcases this is what they're up against, and it's a doozy, right? It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And I think the visuals are really cool when the one dragon like hyper beams through the castle, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah, that was awesome.
I just thought it adds a lot of credibility to the Chroma Conclave, to the threat. It makes you feel like, okay, how are we gonna handle the situation? Because holy cow, like they're up against a lot here. So the first episode, what felt to me the shortest by a mile. I mean, that episode felt like it was 5 minutes long to me.
Absolutely.
And, like, I pressed play and the credits rolled. And I was like, hold on, where'd the episode go? Where's the episode? I just thought it was incredibly well done. It was very entertaining, and not without its flaws, which you absolutely pointed out when you talked about this episode. But I just thought, it was everything I wanted in that episode, and it was fantastic. So that's my number 1.
It was a tone setter. It set the stakes perfectly high, which is like off the charts. It was visually beautiful and brutal, and you're right. I mean, it was great. It was great. The only reason it was my number 9 was just because it didn't have like character time, and but like, it was still awesome. And I think that kind of is the perfect place to, now that we're done talking about our lists, to just kind of talk about the fact that the season didn't really miss, in my opinion. I think all the episodes were really important for the season. We had some, our lowest ranked episodes were build-up episodes, there were transition episodes and stuff, but you had to have that, otherwise you'd have no idea what the hell was going on. So I was super pleased with season 2. I couldn't tell you if I liked it or season 1 better right now, just off the cuff. I'd have to really think about it. I think I probably did like it better, just because I felt like more characters got time in the sun, right? It was really hard for me to pick between Vax, Grog, and Scanlan for MVP, like for number 1, right? Because they all had really cool stuff going on. And then Vex had a cool episode and Kiki had a cool episode, whereas in season 1 it was like Percy and Pike primarily, I think. So would you agree? Would you be able to pick between the two seasons?
Yeah, I think season 2 season 2 is better, and I think it does a better job of, like you just said, showcasing and highlighting more characters, gives more characters a place in the sun. Season 1 felt to me maybe a little bit disjointed in that we didn't have like the Chroma Conclave established as the villain in season 1 for the entirety of it, right? Like they meet this dragon, they're like they all kind of get their butts kicked, and then it's about this Dracula guy where Grog gets the sword from him. So to me, season 1 was a little more disjointed in like what is Vox Machina doing, right? What are they like? What is their ultimate goal? And they get that halfway through the season or whatever, when they actually learn about the Dorolo family and all that kind of stuff, and they work through that problem. But this season, it was from episode 1, from the jump, this is what we're against. This is what we're trying to solve. So for that, I think it gave the season a little bit more purpose than season 1. Season 1 felt a little bit more episodic, of just like, we're just kind of going to go around and we're going to have adventures. And this season was like, no, we got to do these things so that we can kill the dragon. And I think the show does a really good job of towing the line between like serious but not too serious, like serious but still fun. They don't ever take the fun too far to the point that it becomes not believable, and that there are shows that will do that. And I never felt like it was too campy or too like they were making too many jokes. It's always serious enough that the threat feels real and credible, but not so serious that you get bogged down and you're crying and you get all emotional. And it's like, it's lighthearted, lighthearted and serious and fun. I think it hits all the right notes. And they do a good job of, obviously there's a lot of battle and combat in a D&D show, but now they have started to integrate more of these like relationships between some of the characters, and they're all different, which I think is good. All of their interactions, relationships, you know, you've got Hewitt, you know, she's the innocent, childlike innocent one, and then you've got Vax, who's all broody and all the you know, he's got like a dour expression on his face, you know, so it's like you have these, like, you have that, and then you have like Scanlan, who's just like, you know, he basically is a walking like male prostitute, like he will sleep with literally anybody. And then you've got Pike, who's like very pure, and you know, she's like the priest, and you know, like you have these interesting relationship dynamics that they build into the show that add that just an extra layer of complexity and add another thing to the show that isn't just like, okay, we're just going to go fight again this episode, and then next episode we're just going to go fight again. It's like, no, there's more depth to the show, which I think is really well done and showcased and highlighted in this season particularly.
I totally agree. I think we established the characters and who they were on the surface in season 1, and in season 2 we got to dig just a little bit deeper, and a lot bit deeper for some of them. So I love that. And you also didn't mention Percy and Vex when you were talking about the relationships, but they're my favorite because they feel like the most mature and the most well developed, right? And you know, they're both adults. They both have their skeletons in their closet or whatever, and they're bringing that to the forefront. They recognize each other's struggles, and it just feels so good. I love to see it. Obviously, like Kiki and Vax are really cute. Just because I think Kiki's really cute. But they're very surface level at this moment.
I definitely agree with you that Percy and Vex, it feels like their relationship is the most like two-sided.
Yes.
The other relationships feel a lot more one-sided.
Absolutely.
To me.
I mean, I love to see that. So, yeah. Season 2 is a major win for me, and I can't wait till season 3, basically. Yeah,
I mean, I could not recommend Vox Machina highly enough. Like, if you're a fan of D&D, if you're a fan of high fantasy, you know, if you can stomach a little bit of vulgarity, the show is incredible. It's fun, it's funny, it's well written, it's well done. So, you know,
completely
10 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, I'm so glad that you ended up enjoying it as much as I do, because I didn't think I would even like it. You know, I was like, oh, it's an animated show that's based on D&D. Like, how good can this... Are they just going to go on dungeon dives every episode? Like, I don't care about that stuff. And then I immediately cared about that stuff. So it was really good to see. So, okay, well, amazing. Thank you all for being here for our ranking of the episodes. And if you've seen the character video already, thank you for watching that. Thank you, Ben, for doing this with me. It's way more fun to do it with somebody else than just do it by myself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a blast.
Good.
And I'm interested to see if anybody has any agreements or disagreements with the things that we ranked, right? Like, what do the other people think? Like, what does everybody else think about, what their favorite episodes were, who their favorite characters were. I'll be interested to see what you get from people.
That's a good point. Let us know in the comments what your number 1 episode was and what your last episode was. Or if you want to do all the work, but trust me, it's a lot of work because it's like, it'll give you heartburn because of how good these episodes are. Rank them all. Just throw that in the comments. I want to see how close we are, because we were way closer with the episodes than we were with the characters, but we were still different. So, especially with our number 1. We had one crossover, so incredible on our part. Okay, well, I'm going to call it here. Again, thank you so much. And this is great. This is great. Thanks, guys. Bye. Thank you so much for watching my season recap videos from The Legend of Vox Machina. I had an absolute blast and want to thank Ben one last time for joining me. I'm not going to keep you here for very long, so I will say one last time to please like the video if you enjoy it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a patron on Patreon or a member on YouTube. That's it for me. Bye!